moment on finance, there's a lot going on short-term, but not enough going on long-term finance. So the EU, the US and Japan are all obsessed at the moment with looking at what for the next 3 years they can get out of their budgets. The problem with short-term financing is it takes our eyes off the prize. What we really need to see is automatic long-term financing up to 2020 that gives developing countries a security and a knowledge that they can actually adapt and develop sustainably to help them fight climate change. And this is really, really key to unlocking all the stalemate that we're seeing in the negotiations on finance. What the heads of state cannot do is take aid for development programs, for schools and education in developing countries and repackage it as climate aid. It's kind of like robbing Peter to pay for Paul. The Thesaurus proposal looks at the right size of finance required, which is really welcome. It also looks at an automatic way of raising the money that we need over a certain period of time, and that's really, really welcome. Some of the concerns we have about the proposal is that it does talk about loans to developing countries, and what we want to see is grants, because this is a payment for a debt owed by developing countries to poorer nations.
The first week of the COP, we saw legally binding be forced back on the table, and this is really good news. It sets the scene for the ministers. This is what the game is about, and it sends a strong signal that they will not get out of Copenhagen without being asked to sign what they promise in legally binding text and stick by it. We saw some dramatic development this week, and several meetings were actually suspended. But the interesting thing is that this is how we saw and this is how we know that legally binding was pushed back on the table. They're starting to confront each other. They're starting to get serious. So the suspension of the meetings was actually a good sign.
Unless that is resolved, we might see a situation where we come out of Copenhagen without the sort of legally binding outcome, which includes a second commitment period from the Kyoto Protocol.
The road to 2 degrees, the 2 degrees agreement that the heads of state have promised us, is open. It's not about whether we can find a way, it's about whether they are willing to go down that road. So there's no excuse for just staying put and keeping the engine running. It's basically now they should deliver what they promised to the voters. And the 2 degrees agreement is the least we can expect. We believe it should be as far below 2 degrees as possible. We've heard that many of the heads of state will be arriving already Wednesday, and that shows an engagement that we welcome. And it gives us more flexibility in terms of what we can accomplish in Copenhagen. But if some of them still want to walk around and say, we do not have time to finish the job here in Copenhagen, then we believe they should cancel the speeches, cancel the fancy dinners, and get to work. Because after all, no head of state would like to be known as the head of state who sat and had a fancy dinner while the planet was in the biggest crisis ever. That would be like dining on the Titanic.